You tap your phone against the reader. A soft chime. The cashier nods. You walk out with a coffee, a sandwich, and a protein bar you didn't plan to buy. Total, $19.40. You don't see the number. You don't feel the number. You feel nothing. That's the problem. It's 11 at night now, and you're lying in bed scrolling your bank app for the third time today, and the balance is lower than it should be, again. You don't remember spending it. There was the lunch. The rideshare. The thing on Amazon you ordered at 2 a.m. that arrived in a box too big for what was inside. Each one was a tap. Each tap was a millisecond of microdecision your conscious mind never registered. Your insula, the small region of your brain that lights up when you experience physical pain, is supposed to fire when you part with money. Neuroeconomics research suggests that handing over physical cash activates this same pain network. But a tap, a click, a saved card, the signal barely registers. Your brain processes the transaction as cost-free. You are, in a very literal neurological sense, spending money you don't feel spending. And so the balance leaks. Not in dramatic disasters, but in a slow, frictionless drift. Tap. 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 You set your phone face down. You tell yourself tomorrow you'll track everything. You won't. Level 1 complete. But here's where most people stay. You start noticing. Not consciously at first, more like a background hum of unease. You open your bank app on a Tuesday morning, and the number is wrong. Not catastrophically. Just wrong enough. You scroll the transactions. 63 of them in 8 days. You count again. 63. You don't remember most of them. There's a charge for $4.27 from a place whose name looks like a license plate. You squint. It's the parking app. You forgot you used it. You forgot you used it 4 times this week. You start to feel something. It isn't quite shame. It's closer to the sensation of waking up in a room you don't remember walking into. Where did the money go? Not theoretically, specifically. You try to retrace Saturday. The coffee. The lunch. There was a lunch, wasn't there? Your prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for planning and impulse control, is finally trying to do its job. But it's working with corrupted data, because at the moment of each purchase, you weren't paying attention. The neuroscientists Antonio Rangel and Colin Kammer have studied how value is computed in the brain during real-time choice, and the consensus is unsettling. When the friction of payment is removed, the valuation system can be bypassed entirely. You weren't deciding. You were tapping. There's a difference. You close the app. The unease stays. Level 2 complete. But here's where most people stay. You decide to fix this. You download a budgeting app. Maybe 2. You spend a Sunday afternoon categorizing transactions in color-coded buckets, groceries in green, dining in red, subscriptions in yellow. The pie chart is honest with you in a way you haven't been honest with yourself. 41% on convenience. You set limits. You promise yourself, no more ordering in this month. No more impulse Amazon. You feel proud. You feel in control. By Thursday, you've broken every limit. You stand in your kitchen at 9:47 p.m. holding your phone, looking at a delivery app, telling yourself you'll cook tomorrow. You tap. $23. Done. The willpower model assumes spending is a single decision made by a rational mind. The neuroscience suggests the opposite. Walter Mischel's work on self-control, and later research by Roy Baumeister on what he called ego depletion, point to a system that fatigues. Each act of resistance drains the same finite resource. By the end of a working day, your prefrontal cortex is metabolically tired, and your limbic system, the older, faster, more emotional circuitry, takes over. The budget app didn't fail. You didn't fail. The architecture failed. You were trying to win a fight against your own neurology with willpower as your only weapon, while the payment system on your phone was specifically engineered to remove every gram of friction your brain needed to think. The deck was stacked. You just hadn't seen the cards yet. Level 3 complete. But here's where most people stay. You stumble across a phrase in an article, the pain of paying. You stop scrolling. The economists Dražen Prelec and George Lowenstein proposed, decades ago, that spending money produces a small, real, psychological sting, a kind of cognitive flinch, and that this sting is part of how a healthy financial brain regulates itself. Cash, they argued, hurts the most. You see the bills leave your hand. You see the wallet thin. The pain is tiny, but it's a signal, and the signal does work. The brain logs the transaction emotionally, not just mathematically. Credit cards reduce that pain. Apple Pay, Tap to Pay, one-click checkout, saved payment methods, these reduce it further. Each layer of abstraction is a layer of anesthesia. You read this and something settles in your chest. It isn't motivation. It's relief. The thing you've been calling weak willpower has a name and a mechanism. You're not broken. You were anesthetized. Brain imaging research on consumer choice has suggested that the insula activates more strongly when subjects are asked to part with cash than when the same purchase is made on credit. The pain isn't metaphorical. It's neurological. And the entire payments industry, intentionally or not, has spent 2 decades engineering it away. You sit with this for a long moment. The implications cascade. If the pain has been removed, it can be reintroduced. If your brain has been bypassed, it can be put back in the loop. Level 4 complete. But here's where most people stay. You try something small. You go to an ATM on a Monday morning and withdraw $200 in 20s. The bills feel strange in your hand, heavier than they should, somehow. You haven't carried cash in maybe a year. You decide, this $200 is your discretionary spend for the week. Coffee, lunches, the small extras. When it's gone, it's gone. The first day, you buy a coffee. You hand over a 20. The barista hands back change. You feel it. A small, specific pang, the exact thing Prelec and Lowenstein described. It's not painful. It's clarifying. You watch yourself decide whether the croissant is worth it. You decide it isn't. By Wednesday, you have $110 left and a strange sensation you haven't had in a long time, awareness. You start to notice the architecture of your day. The number of times your hand reached for your phone to tap. The reflexive nature of it. You delete the saved card from one app. Then another. You turn off one-click checkout on Amazon. Each act of friction is small. Together, they amount to putting your prefrontal cortex back in the loop. Behavioral research on what's sometimes called choice architecture suggests that even tiny increases in transactional effort, a few seconds, an extra click, can meaningfully reduce impulsive spending. You aren't relying on willpower. You're redesigning the environment so willpower is needed less often. The leak slows. Level 5 complete. But here's where most people stay. Then comes the moment. You're in a store you didn't plan to enter, looking at something you didn't plan to buy. It's $840. A piece of furniture, a gadget, a thing that would feel good in your apartment for about 3 weeks. The old you would have tapped. The card is in your phone. The phone is in your hand. The reader is right there. 3 seconds and it's done. Your limbic system is pulling. There's a warm, specific pleasure in imagining the purchase already made, what neuroscientists studying reward anticipation, including Brian Knutsen's work on the nucleus accumbens, have characterized as the dopamine surge of pre-purchase. The dopamine isn't lying to you. It's just early. It promises a satisfaction the actual ownership rarely delivers. You stand there. You feel the pull. You also feel something new, the pain of paying, anticipated. Your insula firing in advance, simulating the sting before the transaction occurs. This is the rewiring. You don't decide instantly. You walk out of the store. You sit in your car. You set a 48-hour rule for purchases over $100. You drive home. By Wednesday, the wanting has thinned to almost nothing. The thing you almost bought is barely a memory. You realize, with a strange quiet clarity, that the wealthy are not the people who can afford anything. They're the people whose brains evaluate purchases before, not after. Level 6 complete. But here's where most people stay. Months pass. Something has shifted, and you can feel it in places you didn't expect. You open your bank app and the number is no longer a surprise. It's a forecast you helped write. The transactions are fewer, slower, deliberate. The reflexive tap is gone, replaced by a half-second pause that feels almost imperceptible from the outside but, internally, is the entire difference between the old you and this one. You've layered the architecture. Cash for small discretionary spending. Debit for groceries and bills. One credit card, used deliberately, paid in full each cycle. Saved cards deleted from every app where the convenience was costing more than it saved. The 48-hour rule for anything over $100. The week-long rule for anything over $500. Research on habit formation, including work by Grabiel on the basal ganglia, suggests that repeated behavior carves neural pathways that eventually run themselves, what she described as the chunking of action sequences into automatic routines. Your old chunked routine was tap, regret, repeat. The new one is pause, evaluate, choose. The second routine, once installed, requires no more willpower than the first did. The brain that used to leak now compounds. Money you don't spend is money that stays. Money that stays is money that grows. The mathematics is unromantic and absolutely real. You aren't making more. You're losing less. And losing less, repeated over years, is a quieter, more reliable form of wealth than most of what you were sold. Level 7 complete. But here's where most people stay. At the peak, the rules disappear. Not because you abandoned them, but because they've become you. You walk into a store and a piece of you has already evaluated the purchase before the price has registered. You tap your phone for groceries because the friction would be performative now, the brain is doing the work upstream. You use credit cards strategically, for points and protection, not because the system wants you to, but because you've reverse-engineered the system. The architecture serves you. You see other people now. You see the tap 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 at the register, the slight glaze in the eyes, the absence of register on their faces as $19.40 leaves their account for a coffee they barely remember ordering. You don't judge. You remember. You also see the design, the deliberate engineering of frictionless commerce, the apps, the saved cards, the buy now pay later that hands the brain another anesthetic at the exact moment the pain of paying should fire loudest. You understand it as a system, and you operate inside it without being operated by it. What the wealthy seem to share is not income. It's a relationship to expenditure where the prefrontal cortex stays in the loop, where the insula's small honest pain is allowed to do its work, where every tap is a deliberate act rather than a reflex. The brain isn't different. The architecture around it is. You built yours. The leak is closed. The compounding has begun. And the quiet, unspectacular truth is that wealth was never about earning faster. It was about feeling the cost of every dollar before it left.
Take a slow breath in, and let it out even slower. What you just learned is real. When you tap to pay, your insula, the part of your brain that registers loss, goes quiet. That isn't weakness. That's design. Feel your feet on the floor. Notice the small weight of your hands. Let this insight settle into your body, not just your thoughts. Your brain just learned something it can't unlearn. Picture yourself tomorrow at 4 in the afternoon. Phone in hand, ready to tap. And this time, you pause. One breath. The friction returns. The choice returns. That version of you is not far away. It's the same nervous system, simply informed. When you're ready, open your eyes and watch the next video. The work continues there.